and I was blue lighted from Dunshaughlin into Beaumont Hospital. I arrested in Beaumont Hospital, and the resource team were there to keep me alive.
Yeah.
They hurried me into the CT scanner, which showed a huge right parietal extradural hematoma, or a blood clot.
Yeah.
And the surgery then to evacuate that blood clot happened, I think, was a few hours. And I since met my surgeon, who told me it was a very simple but vital operation. And here was me thinking he was going in with his Black & Decker and his Dyson to hoover out the hematoma.
Yeah.
But I'd say it was a wee bit more technical than that.
Yeah. And you remember these things still vividly, do you? Or is it post-part recollection?
Little memories. I still get flashbacks every now and again. And I spent that night, I fell into a coma. There was no medically induced comas then at the time, I believe. So I fell into a coma for 10 days. And that night, Mum was told I had a 25% chance of living.
Wow.
So that was a huge, huge disruption to Mum and Dad. I spent 10 days in a coma. I had one in particular, one weird dream where I ended up at this imaginary Olympic Games, which I'd always wanted to run the Olympic Games. But Eamon Coughlin was alongside me.
Really?
And it was probably the Olympic Games in Navan in 2060 or something like that. We were waiting, we nodded at each other, everything was going fine. The Kenyans were in between us. And the gun went and everyone raced off, but my legs just wouldn't work.
Wow.
So maybe that was my brain at the time telling me to get ready for what was to happen.
Wow.
For the next 30 or 40 years. But no, I eventually regained consciousness over the period of about 3 months, like a dripping tap, bit by bit by bit. It's not, well, in my case, it wasn't like in the movies where you wake up and, where am I? What happened?
Yeah.
But in the 3 months I was there, I learned little bits of what had happened, what I could do, what I couldn't do. I wasn't able to walk, talk, or eat. So from being the fittest fecker in Navan, I was a mess, a cripple of a man suddenly. And but I suppose that the thing that kept me going was when the surgeons would come in and talk to Mum about what was happening, they said 2 years. 2 years, 2 years. That's all I ever heard as a 15, 16-year-old was 2 years. And I thought, okay, brilliant. I can run the Dublin Marathon for my 18th birthday. I'll be able to run with the Bulls in Pamplona. But what I didn't hear was what they had in brackets, 2 years, and we'll reassess.
Wow.
So it was actually the 2 years that kept me going then. I spent the summer off because I was supposed to sit my intercert that year. And Dad always slags me off that I got injured on purpose to avoid sitting the intercert.
Yeah.
But as excuses go, I suppose it's well up there.
Yeah.
So the following September, then I started third year again. So I had to relearn the syllabus that I'd missed out because I'd stayed back a year. And it was when my subliminal physio really took hold, walking the corridors of St. Patrick's Classical School every 40 minutes. I suppose there was no such thing as SNAs back then, nobody to carry my bag, nobody to help me avoid the bullies who were all over the place, ready to push me over, to laugh at me falling.
Are you serious?
The balance was terrible.
And people did that, Phil, did they? Even
teenage boys are fuckers.
Yeah, I suppose.
You know, if it wasn't me that got injured, I might have been doing the pushing.
Yeah.
But no, I realize that now, that the subliminal physio I was doing by walking, carrying my bag for 6-7 hours a day, and then cycling home up Flower Hill, and it was just the best physio ever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people who want to get home from hospital, this is why, because they can tailor themselves then.
And do their own kind of rehab program, yeah.
Absolutely. That's my take on it anyway.
And memory loss and memory, that all clicked back into place. There was no sacrifice there?
Well, the biggest memory issue I had was before I got injured, I was the best mechanical drawer in the class. I was going to be an architect when I grew up. It was all tailored towards that. But as soon as I sat down with a T-square and a pencil in front of me and the teacher told me what to do, I broke down.
Yeah.
I started crying. I didn't know what was wrong. That side of my head just suddenly wasn't working anymore.
Mm.
And that caused me a lot of anxiety at the time. I switched then. I think I changed economics with the great Colin O'Rourke teaching us. And
Oh, wow.
I think more so than teaching us, he taught us about the hard knocks in life that he'd taken. And I loved listening to them stories. And I think listening to him taught me so much. And I learned so much from him that economics turned out to be my best Leaving Cert subject in the end.
And how did you come to terms with the high level of activity you'd had up to then to like the non-activity and the disappearance of sport in your day-to-day schedule?
Well, I suppose, again, looking back now, I think the amount of sport I did before I got injured, the running, the cycling, the swimming, I ran everywhere just to time myself, to better my own time. That was, looking back now, that was a sort of prehab, which stood to me, pardon the pun, very, very well. And the naivety of youth, and that 2 years the surgeons were telling me, I still believed that I was going to make a full recovery.
Mm. How did you keep yourself motivated those 2 years?
Well, the main motivation was school.
Yeah.
And the teachers looked after me a certain amount.
But in your own head, it was just the fact that you were competitive and sporting, you were setting yourself a target for the 2 years, unbeknownst to you, and to keep going?
Yeah. But I suppose I had to learn to adapt then.
Yeah.
After I realised that the 2 years had come and gone, I had to learn to adapt. I was still sort of naive in a way. I had to learn a different passion.
Mm.
So once I left school then, my main passion was, it was a new drug called travel.
Yeah.
And I touted myself all around the world. I adored traveling because it was at the introduction of cheap Ryanair flights.
Yeah.
So I was able to go all around Europe, mainly at the start, and I worked in a special needs summer camp in France.
You went back to Lusaka in 22, didn't you?
I went back in 2004, I think.
4, yeah. So even then you were able to go that distance. It wasn't just Ryanair here and there. It was a good long flight to go back to where it all started. Yeah.
96 then, I was in summer camp in New Jersey.
Wow.
And that really opened my eyes, because the adults and kids I was working with were a lot more worse off than me. So I suppose that made me appreciate what I had, despite the huge disability I had. 99 then, I decided to go to Australia. So I flew around the world, and I met some incredible people over there. I finally made it to the Olympic Games in Sydney in 2000. I applied for a job working as an events coordinator, and I went to the interview with a corporate banker and a high school lecturer, and was told no, I was no good as an events coordinator. They wanted me to manage central operations.
Mm-hmm.
So I had thousands of volunteers and team leaders under me. I knew I could do it, but I'd just been given the chance to perform at that level. And I met Terry McHugh, who was throwing the spear for Ireland at the time. He's from Navan.
Yeah, Terry. Yeah.
And I saw Sonia in silver, even though I had to cheat my way into the stadium. I only had access to central operations, and there were certain people that only had security clearance for the stadium to work in. But a third time lucky, as Kathy Freeman had finished her gold medal race, the whole stadium seemed to want to empty.
Yeah.
So I decided to swim against the tide of people, and snuck in and hid in the toilet until the race was announced.
Mm.
And I stood up. I suppose if Sonia had won, I might have been arrested for running across the track to congratulate her.
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic event to be at. And
have you told her that story? Have you?
Oh, I'm not sure if she's read the book yet, but she makes a huge part in it.
Yeah.
But then I came home, back to work in the job I'd left in Lotus and Santry, computers, and got a job offer a few months later. I lived in Kildare town then for 7 years, or for 4 years, and Newbridge for another 3 years. Loved the Curragh.